You've probably heard of ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. But today, we're going to go beyond just the clinical diagnosis. We're going to try and understand this disease through the eyes and the words of the people who live with it every single day.
Let's start right here. I could not move my entire body. These are the words of Anton, a 48-year-old man living with ALS. And wow, he takes us right to the heart of it, doesn't he? This feeling of profound isolation, where your body just no longer listens to your will. This is where our story really begins.
So that really gets you thinking. What is it actually like to live with an incurable disease? You know, to understand the human stories we're about to share, we first have to get a handle on the clinical reality they are up against.
So let's start there, with the diagnosis itself and what it really means from a medical standpoint.
Okay, so what is ALS exactly? Well, it's what's called a progressive neurodegenerative disease. That basically means it attacks the nerve cells, the motor neurons in your brain and your spinal cord. You can think of these neurons as the messengers that tell your muscles what to do. As they begin to die off, the brain's ability to control movement just fades away. And here's the toughest part. There is currently no cure.
And that diagnosis, well, it sets in motion a really difficult physical progression. It's an unrelenting decline of the body.
The way it progresses is both systematic and, well, it's devastating. It often starts with muscle weakness, but it inevitably moves toward total paralysis. And we're not just talking about the ability to walk. This affects everything. Dysarthria means speaking becomes a huge struggle. Dysphagia makes something as simple as swallowing incredibly difficult, which can lead to malnutrition. And ultimately, the muscles we use to breathe start to weaken. Respiratory failure is, for most patients, the eventual cause of death.
And then there's this number. This is the one that just hangs over every single diagnosis. The average life expectancy after symptoms start is just 3 to 5 years. Think about that. It's an incredibly short amount of time to come to terms with an illness that changes everything.
And this is how those clinical terms become gut-wrenchingly real. This is from Felix, who's only 22 years old. When we hear the word dysphagia, his experience shows us what it actually means, losing a dangerous amount of weight, which then causes a whole new set of problems. It just goes to show how one symptom can have this ripple effect across the entire body.
But, the battle with ALS is really fought on two fronts. Because beyond all the physical challenges, there's this whole inner world, an immense psychological and emotional toll.
I think this really captures the identity crisis that so many patients go through. On the one hand, you have your past self, independent. Maybe you were the breadwinner, you were social, you felt in control. But ALS forces this new reality on you, one of dependence, of losing your autonomy, of being isolated, and for many, this terrible feeling of being a burden. It's a fundamental rewriting of who you are.
And as Celia, who is 42, explains so well, it's not just one big thing. It's more like a death by 1,000 cuts. Of course, the big things, like having to give up your job, are devastating. But it's the constant daily loss of the little things that feels like you're slowly slipping away.
And of all the losses, this one might be one of the cruelest. The ability to communicate. I mean, can you imagine having all of your thoughts, your feelings, your fears trapped inside you with no easy way to get them out? It creates this huge barrier between patients and everyone they love.
And here we are back with Anton. His words just perfectly capture this. It's not just about the mechanics of talking. It's about losing a huge part of your personality, your ability to connect with people, to laugh, to just be with them. He says he feels like he's lost his voice, and in so many ways, that means losing his place in the world.
So faced with all these overwhelming challenges, what's the response? What can we do? This brings us to what's called the ecosystem of care, and just how critical it is to build a strong network of support.
You see, the big takeaway from the research is that you can't just treat ALS with medicine. It's not enough. It requires a holistic, multidisciplinary approach. That means you need a whole team of experts to address not just the physical symptoms, but also the complex emotional and social needs of both the patient and their entire family.
This here is a great visual for the concept. The study we're drawing from actually proposes a formal framework for this kind of care. Now, the name, the Multifaceted Comprehensive Cooperative Support Model, is a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the goal behind it is really simple: to help patients find meaning in their lives even as the disease takes its course.
So let's break down that model. It's built on 4 pillars. First, there's what they call empirical value.
That's all about helping patients understand the disease and, just as importantly, feel connected and loved. Second is creative value. This is about rediscovering hobbies or looking back on life's accomplishments to keep that sense of purpose. Third is attitudinal value. This is a big one. It's about adjusting your mindset to accept the reality of the situation and find new meaning. And finally, you have the supportive elements. That's the network, the family, friends, and medical team that holds it all together.
Which brings us to our final, and maybe the most important part of this story, this incredible capacity to find meaning and the amazing diversity of human resilience.
Just listen to these powerful words from Ivan, who is 66. Through his support network, he came to this profound realization. It's not about how many days you have left. It's about the quality of life you can find in those days.
And really, that's the heart of resilience when it comes to ALS. It's not about beating the disease in the traditional sense. It's about adapting. It's this incredibly difficult, conscious choice to shift your focus away from the constant grief of what you've lost and toward what's still possible, what you can still cherish.
We'll end the patient stories with this, from a 51-year-old former athlete who calls himself Jogger. It's just a statement of pure, raw determination. He holds out hope for new medical treatments, of course, but his real focus is on the here and now, to live well today, and to make every single day he has left truly count.
And so we're left with this question. The stories of Anton and Celia and Felix, they aren't just about one disease. They're a mirror, really, asking all of us, how do we build a society that offers not just medical care, but real, true compassion for people who are on the most difficult journey imaginable? What does it actually mean to help someone live well right up to the very end?